Howard Sheriff's Office, we were able to get some money in for their capital project that's going to rebuild and improve that program. And then one of the last things I would say is from a perspective of working together. It's something I believe in. Look, I did it because I wanted to, not because I had to as a county commissioner, and I still do it because I want to, not because it's required by being in the majority in Tallahassee. But working with Rep. Williams on Fire Station 52, which is her district, not mine, but it's just as important to me because it serves the residents of Pompano Beach. So when that came around, it was in the committee that I have that I'm on called Government Operations and Technology Appropriations. And when my chair came over to me and said, well, what's your project? I said, well, I don't have a project in this committee, but I do have Rep. Williams' project is really important to me. So let's hope that gets across the finish line. It's important. And then finally, McNabb Road project that Rep. Williams talked about is actually in my district. So it's all about working together and trying to make sure that we work together up there to get projects across the finish line from a funding standpoint. And then what Yolanda alluded to, number one, we had a bill that I worked with Senator Hooper on that was to bar or ban any homeowners associations from preventing a law enforcement officer from bringing their police car home and having it in a residential neighborhood. Believe it or not, we see that. My first neighbor in Lighthouse Point was a Pompano Beach police officer when it was Pompano Beach, and I always felt safer with that car there. So this was banning something that didn't happen really here in South Florida, but Clearwater, there was a couple incidents. So that bill passed and was signed by the governor. And then the one that I think you probably alluded to, Yolanda, was one that your former law colleague and friend Senator Marco Rubio, is working on a federal level, but statewide, we passed something called the Intercollegiate Collegiate Athletics Act. But basically, it's allowing college athletes of any sport, any gender, any state college or university to use their name, image, and likeness as an ability to make money, to advertise, to get endorsements. It doesn't pay players of any sport to play the game, but it allows them, just like an engineering, a marketing, a finance, or a law student that could go do something while they're in college to earn money off of what their abilities and who they are. So that passed and was signed. Unfortunately, was signed at the U and not at another great university in Florida. But we did sign that a couple of weeks ago on Friday at the University of Miami, and I'm proud of that work, and I appreciate all the work that went into that. Minority Leader Keone McGee was also there with me on that, and I had a lot of help in both houses, and it was I think really more of an equity issue for athletes to be treated the same as other students. We always think of them as all the stars and they're on TV or they're in a book or in a magazine, but the reality is they can't benefit off that where the universities do. But now in Florida, starting next July 1, they will be able to do that. So that's kind of what we're up to this year, and looking forward to getting back up and doing some more work next year.
Yolanda?
Yes.
Now
yes.
I want you and Representative Williams know I don't feel so bad about taking so much time after Chip have gone for days. And there's nothing wrong with the U. That's a great institution that we should always sign as many bills as we can at the U.
All right, thank you. Listen, I got a note in the chat to get to the meat of the matter. So let's get to the meat of the matter. What is the governor going to veto, and how much is he going to veto? I'd like to know that. That's kept me up many nights. Anybody want to take a stab at a prediction on the budget?
Let me try to just, as someone who considers, and I know we all do, but as someone who considers Shane Strum a dear friend and really kind of got me into this racket back when I was comfortable in Lighthouse Point, got me into politics at a bigger level. I talk to him on a regular basis, and I can tell you from the governor's office, unequivocally, I don't know, Tara doesn't know, and Patricia doesn't know. We wish we did. We know that he signed teacher pay is important. We hope that affordable housing, you all weigh in, but certainly we have some member projects that are really important. And I think he's going to look towards priorities that more than one rep or more than one issue, like if there's something, for example, Women of Tomorrow, that's helping quite a few people in our community. Whereas maybe a specific member project may be smaller, and I'll yield to my much smarter senator to give me some advice.
I'm going to yield to Representative Williams.
Well, let's just start with a prediction. I just predict that 50% of the projects that was put forth by the Democrats will be vetoed out. That's my prediction.
I think that this is a tough time, and I know that everybody recognizes that the world is a lot different than it was when we passed this budget in March, and some of the economic factors that have come into play is why we would like to have seen a special session to address these cuts and to have the legislature have some impact, even though it would still fall on the governor to make cuts to even those impacts. But I think, there are a lot of, when Chip says there are a lot of individuals and municipalities that we represent that are looking at this really closely, because those things are important to them that we fought for to get in the budget. Chip mentioned several things for Pompano. And then, across my district, there are 11 cities, all of whom think that their projects are very important. And in fact, they are very important. But there are going to be some tough decisions. I think it would be those types of items that affect multiple jurisdictions that will survive the veto pen. And a lot of the individual projects for local municipalities will be cut. I agree with Representative LaMarca that this Sadowski Housing Trust Fund is something that we all supported, that we would like to see survive. And there are things, what he said about Visit Florida. The Democrats were staunchly in support of Visit Florida. And, we're just hoping that, there can be a way to use reserves as opposed to cutting some of the projects that's dear to our constituents.
Thank you. So you're not going to get off that easy. We want to talk more about the budget. You mentioned, Senator Thurston, that the legislature, you feel that the legislature should have been come back to talk about the budget. Since you did not come back, what is it going to look like when you do go back? Now we're hearing November.
Well,
What do you expect
we're
during
here
that
in
time?
November because I think the thought is let's wait till after the elections. Many of us have elections that we're engaged in right now, and we don't know what the makeup of the legislature will be in November, and there may be different ideas. But I think that, Yolanda, there's been monies that have come down from the federal government to help us through this period. There are monies that's designated for our elections. And those are the types of things that we think that the representatives from across the state should be weighing into how those funds are being utilized. There are decisions that can be made based on there being an emergency, based on the emergency nature of what we're dealing with. But there are also decisions that are being made where it's a little iffy in terms of who has the authority to make those decisions. And we just simply think that it would be good if we were all back in the saddle, or even, one of the things we've done is we've perfected this Zoom thing. Maybe there's a way we can have some input without actually being in the legislature, but by having an input in what's going on. Right now, we're hearing a lot of stuff that's happening, but there's no input from the representatives who've been elected to craft the initial $93 billion budget that we passed in March.
Representative LaMarca, do you agree with that?
I do. I don't know if I want to do a Zoom call with 120 members of the Florida House. After the one I was on with the Alliance the other day, we got hacked, and it was quite an experience. But the senator is dead on. I mean, look, the relief valve is, we do know that we have to pass a balanced budget. The relief valve is that there is $4 billion in reserves. There were additional dollars put in coronavirus issues, and that was like roughly 53 million right off the bat to use, and that probably went all to DEM for issues for PPE. But then there was another 200 to 300 million that could be accessed, and then, like I said, there's 4 billion in reserves. There are CARES Act funding. A lot of that has been appropriated, and a lot has been sent down to the counties, larger counties. I know that Broward County had a big portion of that, and 11 counties received dollars. The governor also has a portion that should be heading out to cities. There was a population-based model on how that would be delegated and be able to be spent. And then as far as going back up, I mean, you know, it is, you know, the budget is the issue we're talking about. And if there is an issue with him being able to do it with reserves and with CARES Act, I think we would have heard by now. And I'm not disagreeing with Perry or Patricia, but from a representative and senator, but they're friends, and I'll call them by their first names if they don't mind. But you know, look, it's going to be a tough year next year. There's going to be Yolanda. You were up there when Ellen was a member, and her most popular word right out the bat when I walked into her office was no. You know, we're not giving. We don't have any money. What we have to do is figure out how to make things work with legislative priorities that don't cost money. So, you know, I don't know that we're going to be in quite the same predicament, but if we don't come out of this from a hospitality, tourism, and you know, our major industries, then we're really, I mean, it's all about sales tax right now. The state runs 77% on that number, and you know, I'm going to be running a bill with Representative Clemens out of Alachua next year to try to get this state of Florida up to speed with the other 48 states outside of Missouri that have a online sales tax. And I just think that's it's not a new tax you're required to pay when you buy online, and that's really something that could bolster our economy a little bit here in the state of Florida as well.
All right, so I want to hold that idea and ask Representative Williams, what do you think it's going to look like in November when you go back, or whenever you go back? And then I want to come back to small business, and then talk about the pandemic a little bit. So, Representative Williams, what do you think about these cuts that Representative LaMarca is alluding to? What is it going to look like for us in November?
Well, I agree with both Senator and Representative also, but I want to talk about a little bit when he was speaking about some of the things that we worked on that really don't cost us money. The voting rights that I worked on, I put a bill up, forth about once someone has served their time, the voting rights should be restored. That's what the voters voted on. That's what they wanted. But at the end of the day, we had a couple of representatives that felt that the voters did not understand what they were voting on. I put forth the bill, House Bill 6007, which would actually agree with what the voters agreed on to restore the rights of those that have served their time without paying a process fee, what they were requesting. That would be something that would not cost us any money. And it was put forth, it was not heard, but I'm understanding, and I would like for the senator or the representative to correct me, that it was approved in a higher court. And if that's the case, where are we here in Florida with that? Are we going to allow them to vote, or they're not going to be able to vote, or what's going to happen? When we go back in Tallahassee after November, I have been on the cutting end each year that I have been there. The first year I got there, my first term, we had the hurricane. So all my projects was cut out at that point because of the hurricane. The second term that I came in, we had that tragedy that happened out in Stoneman Douglas. So now I'm on my third term, and we have this this pandemic that we are under, where all the projects may be cut out again. So I think right now, when we put forth different things and hoping that our cities that we serve are able to get the special projects that they need, it's hard when you're there and you put forth all you can and it's cut out of the budget. I think moving forward, working together, and I have no problem, and I have crossed the line, worked with anybody. I often say, if I could go to the church and talk to the devil to get things done for the district that I serve, I'm there. So I think both of them on the same page, and I agree with both of them.
Great. So listen, we have not talked about small business, and as a chamber, certainly that's important. Can you share any bills or actions at the state legislature this past session that benefited small business? And this is a question that came from the audience.
Anything to do with education, and I served on those 3 boards. If it was a small business that put forth something that would serve the districts that they're in or serve children in the community, that was pretty much in the budget. I'm understanding that all the projects that help and educate children was still in the budget, but I don't know at this point, are they going to stay in the budget or are they going to be cut out? I think small business play a significant role, and it's a must for us to be able to continue to moving forward to help the small businesses.
Yolanda, on the small business issue, I started to allude to it. We never got the bill to get a hearing, and the sponsor this year, as I mentioned, was Representative Clemens out of Gainesville, Alachua area. But we'll go back with it next year. I believe that if someone has come to our economy, our local economy, or grew up here and they decided to start a business, especially if they're brick and mortar, they should not have any disadvantage by investing in that infrastructure and, turning the lights on and having a business where, they pay rent and those type of things to have a disadvantage to, say, an Amazon or an eBay or whomever. And so if you have a brick and mortar business here, an actual place to go to, you shouldn't be at a disadvantage. And that's something we're going to try to put forward next year. I know from a what happened this year standpoint for local businesses, there were sales tax holidays. There were other issues that we did, but a lot of that got at the last minute. A lot of that was taken out because of COVID. I mean, as Senator said, March 19th we voted on our budget and left, and it was a slightly extended session. But we were already kind of seeing this happen. We had no idea how extensive it was going to be, but looking out for issues that don't. Sometimes as opposed to bringing an actual financial benefit to a small business, not attacking their way of life, their business, their tax structure, their fees. We did a lot in the Department of Business and Professional Regulations and things like that. We tried to make sure that people can continue to run their businesses with less government interference. And I think that is exactly what Rep. Williams said with regard to not always bringing someone an appropriation dollar amount, but actually allowing them to do what they do best, and that is to stimulate our economy and earn a living.
Yolanda, I would agree, and that's what I was going to emphasize, that the division of DBPR has certainly tried to eliminate on a yearly basis. We get a package that talks about eliminating requirements and licensing to benefit small businesses, as well as, we are constantly trying to cut the tax on rental, the rent that these business community are paying. So there are some things that we try to do, and I think that certainly as Representative Lamarck has indicated, if there's any specific ideas or legislation that our local small businesses have, we'll be more than happy to look at it and to champion it as we move forward.
I think also too, you all did not mention, but Florida did start out with the bridge loan program. Unfortunately, that did have a finite capacity, and I think we went through those funds fairly quickly, but the state of Florida was very quick in getting that up and available to our business community. I think the challenge always in those processes is just getting that information out to folks, which again, we've tried to do. But that program always was designed, and I believe we utilize that in hurricanes as well. Am I correct? My panel here? Yeah, okay. But, you know, that's always designed to be exactly what it is, a bridge to the federal funding from programs like the SBA. I do want to take just a moment on this call because if there are folks on here who have not looked into the opportunities, the EIDL loan, which is the emergency loan through the SBA, is again open to everyone. It had been closed for the last month and was available only to agricultural businesses. On June 15th, they did open that funding back up, and that is available now until June 30th. But, you know, I've really been encouraging people because as we've seen, those funds are available until they're not. So, you know, I have no idea what kind of capacity is hitting those requests. So I encourage people, it's an incredibly simple loan application. During this COVID pandemic, they've allowed an exception. You can go and even if you received funding for the hurricane last year, because Broward did get declared a disaster area, you were still eligible for this loan. You know, it is an SBA loan. If you take more than $25,000, it does have collateral requirements, so you have to consider that in your business plan. But I will tell you, it is one of the best deals out there because it's available to both nonprofit and for-profit. Nonprofit, the rate is 2.75. For-profit, it's 3.75. So the application takes about 5 minutes. I've had the link up a number of times, and if anyone needs that information, please reach out to the Chamber again. We will provide it. That we are waiting, there was mention, and I think you all responded to it a little bit, but there has been some money that has gone out to the cities. So the cities do have some discretion in how they utilize those funds. So I think we'll all be waiting to see, and each city has to make a judgment call on where they can impact the community the greatest. So there is more coming, but we're gonna have to wait and see how it looks. But in the interim, everybody should be trying to get an EIDL loan. It's got a 12-month deferral period and no prepayment penalty. So, you know, you are not gonna lose if you need that just to make sure you can keep your business going.
Ms. McIntyre, I want to thank you for that, but I also want to just let you all know that DEO has taken a big hit for their handling of the unemployment situation, and I happen to think justifiably so. However, there are a number of opportunities and a number of pockets of funding that's available through DEO for small businesses, as well as for hurricane release and other things that DEO does that I really think that we should make it a point to make sure that our small businesses know about the opportunities that exist under DEO.
You're absolutely right, Senator. Thank you. And we have been posting that information as well. We've really been working very hard here at the Chamber to create a robust website that would have all those resources. And one thing I've been proud of is we've really worked hard to update them consistently. And everyone realizes some of that information changes almost daily at times. But we have worked hard to keep that out there. And there are payroll credit programs through DEO. There are a lot of opportunities there. So people should be looking into all avenues. And it's tough because you're trying to survive at the same time as you're trying to look for all these resources. And that's why here at the Chamber, we want to try and help whoever we can. I think Yolanda's back and we have, so I'll go back out and we have, I think, another question in the panel.
Yes, we have another question in the panel. The question is regarding if there are any bills that dealt with homelessness, and if you want to answer that question.
I think that our efforts, when you say homelessness,
Well, homelessness, they say homelessness, drug abuse, mental illness, and treatment. And I want to get to the virus when we get finish this question, if you don't mind.
And that's a very good question. I think that, you know, when we think about homelessness, we're always thinking about affordable housing and trying to help people obtain funding to get them off of the streets. And I think that that's one of the things that Chip talked about. And Representative Lamarck talked about when we said that that's something that we all worked hard for, and we're happy to see the portion of the monies, if it can survive this pandemic, that will be coming to Broward to help out in that regards. When we talked about which projects would sustain, and Yolanda, I know you say what's going to be cut. One of the things that we have been emphasizing is that we would like to see those items that go towards mental health and substance abuse. And, you know, unfortunately, historically, those are the first things that get cut when we look at budget cuts. And certainly we think that those are not the things. We would like to see that portion of the budget sustained. You know, it's easier if you think about it. Those are the entities that don't always have the big time lobbyists pushing for them. But, you know, certainly in the times that we're living in, they're the ones that we should be focused on most.
Jeannie, I know that, or Yolanda, I know that you want to get to coronavirus issues. I would put it back and say that, you know, there are bills with regard to mental illness, drug issues, and dealing with a lot of the issues that plague our communities and our friends and folks that are here, you know, in Broward County. But a lot of that good work is done right there at Broward County, and with Commissioner Fisher there now, I know that was one of the areas where Broward County worked quite a bit with a lot of the cities in bringing down both federal and state funds to help with a lot of these issues. For example, I know Fort Lauderdale during COVID, because of a lot of reasons, basic good humanity, is they were renting hotel rooms and trying to take care of a block of their homeless population, try to make sure that, you know, they're not a part of spread and that they have a roof over the head. But a lot of that work, to your point, is local here at Broward County, and the Human Services Division at Broward County, I would say, is probably one of the best in the state, if not the country.
Great. So I want to talk about the coronavirus, because I'm looking at the headlines for today, even. Broward to close and fine businesses not following coronavirus safety guidelines. Talking about the governor's press conference yesterday, where he talked about coronavirus. He has to talk about every day. So there's not a day that goes by that we're not faced with this. But so since we are chamber, what assistance do you think, or what plans do you think the state of Florida should put in place to help small businesses during the coronavirus pandemic? Because you're going to be back in November, and no doubt, knowing what I know, no doubt that there's going to be a lot of bills. There's going to be a lot of discussion, in addition to budget cuts, as to what to do with coronavirus. Do we help businesses by increasing regulation, or are we hindering business by increasing regulation? Are we helping businesses by fining them, or are we hurting businesses by fining them? Representative Williams, since we didn't get you on the last one, what are your thoughts on that?
To keep everyone safe, we have to increase the regulations that's needed to keep everyone safe. Washing your hands, the distance. Everybody is not going to be willing to understand that this is for the safety of the people. Making money is one thing, but keeping everyone safe is a different. I am, for one, wearing my mask when I'm out, washing my hands all the time. The social distancing is very important for me. Not so much for me, but because I am the caretaker of my mother, which is an elderly person. So it's very important for me to follow the same guidelines that everybody else should be following. When I'm out, I make sure I'm keeping my distance away from others. I make sure I'm washing my hand, wearing my mask. And in order for businesses to continue to survive, they need to make sure that they are enforcing these rules and regulations also. I'm not a firm believer of giving them a fine because they're already struggling. But I want to make sure that they are being forced, if they have to follow the rules and regulations to keep everyone safe. Because of the numbers that we're looking at in the cases has increased on the number of people that is testing positive, we all have to work together for the people that we serve.
Senator Thurston.
Yes, I think that that's a very good question, Yolanda. And I think that when you say you're looking at the numbers, we're all looking at the numbers. We normally have a meeting with the county and our Broward delegation and our federal delegation. We meet with the county and with the health department to discuss what's going on. We're very disappointed that the last meeting and the meeting that was scheduled for today has not occurred. I think that we are in a position, quite frankly, from a health component, and I know you asked the question from the economic component, and I think they go hand in hand, but we're at a position where I think we need a lot more federal involvement. I think what was done on the national level, the Paycheck Protection to the CARES Act, the things that were done to help small businesses be able to continue to compensate their employees is a must. I think we needed more. I think when Representative Williams talked about maintaining social distancing and washing of hands. I think that's basically just a way of saying that we need to look at, which phase we're in, because I don't think this is the second phase. This is just the first phase on steroids. And we may have to look at stepping back and reassessing the attempts at opening. And if we do that, then your question becomes even more important, because that means we need to provide more assistance to the businesses so that they can survive. I understand the economic aspect of it, and we need to help out because a pandemic is just what it says it is. It's a shutdown of everything, and everybody needs help. And that helps at this point, I think, needs to come more from the federal government, because quite frankly, that's where the resources are.
Representative LaMarca.
I agree with the senator's comments about the federal government. I mean, that's where we've been able to get a big step on this, and that's why, from an economic standpoint, this year's budget is, of concern for all of us, but it's not as dire as it could be, certainly if we didn't have the help from the federal government. Back on the issue of, whether good health regulations or, emergency orders, executive orders from our counties and our state are good for business or bad for business. How do you encourage? Do you use a carrot or a stick? And I think it's ridiculous. Look, I'm a pretty moderate conservative that believes that liberties and individual responsibilities go with the ability to have all the freedoms we have, but you have responsibilities. It is your responsibility to wear a mask if we're told to wear a mask because it's the right thing to do for health reasons. Just like you put wood on your windows, or if you have impact windows, or you prepare one way or the other when there's a storm coming, we need to work together on things like this. So from a standpoint of what do we do to the business that doesn't follow, I mean, I'm not a big fan of finding somebody or putting them out of business because it's so hard right now for a lot of these places to open. But I know that the county has some enforcement and local governments have enforcement that they can help. I mean, they don't need to shut someone down or hit them with a big penalty the first time they go into a restaurant or a bar or whatever it might be that's allowed to operate. They can say, here's what you can do. You need to separate these tables. People need to wear a mask. You need to have plexiglass in between, different stations. So that type of thing. I mean, I think we can get there, but we have to be working together on all this, and it's it's incumbent upon us as individuals as well as business owners.
Great, thank you so much. So we are out of time, and I'm going to turn it back over to our illustrious leader and to close us out. But thank you so much for your input. We are all waiting to see what happens with the budget. We'll talk more about whether or not we have a state plan even for coronavirus response. I think that's an issue. There's so many issues that are still out there. The chamber has always been to the forefront, and I would be remiss if I didn't give some kudos to the leadership at the city of Pompano who came up to Tallahassee, the mayor, managers, to put forth such a great effort. And they were successful, as you mentioned earlier, with the fire station and the McNabb Road improvements. And we're just praying, and SHIP dollars. We didn't talk about SHIP, but we're just praying that those all survive the vetoes. So with that, I turn it over to Ms. McIntyre. Thank you so much for the opportunity to moderate this panel.
Oh my gosh, thank you all so much. It was a great discussion. You all have so much information to share. I think one thing we all can see is how hard you all are working for us up in Tallahassee, and all of you, including our moderator. We truly appreciate all your time and efforts. There is a lot more to come. The community is pulling together. I will tell you right now, I am working with Broward College on behalf of the Council of Chambers, and we are going to try to put together a program because we recognize businesses have difficulty dealing with managing clients during the COVID, whether they're compliant or not compliant. And Broward College is probably going to step up, it looks like, and help us provide some training to all of you. And we're going to create probably something that's a countywide certification that will help you and get you through this process. So please stay tuned for that. It's coming. Next Level Business programs continue. We do training. We try to do them every Tuesday. Stay tuned to your calendar for additional programming. We will have one on June 30th. So we look forward to having you all in attendance. The chamber will be relocating. My fingers are crossed that it'll happen in July. So we continue to work remotely, and we are here to serve you. My cell phone is on everything. So hopefully if any of you have issues or concerns, you will reach out to me directly. I am always available to help anyone. And that means anyone in our community. And we didn't talk at all, but I hope we're all supporters of Broward. I think that was, while it was a little bit of an edgy campaign, I think it is a way that we can all show that our hearts and our dollars and our money is staying here in Broward County. So we look forward to continuing discussions. And again, thank you, Senator Thurston. Thank you, Representative Williams. Thank you, Representative LaMarca. And thank you, Yolanda Cash-Jackson. Tremendous job from everybody today. We really appreciate your time. And one final thank you to my partners at the Brazilian Business Group. Always happy to have you participate with us. So thank you all for joining us. And a last thank you to Louis Franco from CMIT, who took over the backside today, so I wasn't having a nervous breakdown, which really was much better than my last program where I almost had a heart attack. So thank you, Louis, for making that much more seamless for me. Thank you all for being here with us this morning. Everybody have a great day.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Have a good one.
Thank you.
Thank you. ending the meeting.
Yeah, I think we're good. Yolanda,
Okay.
thank you, love. That was fabulous.
Thank you so much for the invitation and thinking of me. This was fun. I love it.
Good. Well, I would love to do something, we'll see, if we can do another event, maybe when they get ready to go back to session, what's on
Yeah,
their
that's gonna
agenda.
be that's gonna be really important. What I hope they would say is they're gonna do a huge cut exercise. So everything, even if we survive
I know.
today, we'll come back and cut. And I wanted to get out of Chip that an amount that the governor was gonna cut, because I've heard the Senate leadership say it's only $500 million, which if that's the case, it's not so bad.
Okay.
Rick Scott did $600 million, his
Okay.
first term. But
So,
I also
yeah.
heard from the staff that it was going to be something like $2 billion.
And that everybody will feel, yeah.
Right. So the fact that he didn't do the cuts, that he did the teacher salaries, that was significant, because that was $500 million right there that he
Good.
could have done. So the problem was, and I didn't want to, just not
Right.
political, but just real quick, the problem was I didn't want to embarrass Chip, because
Yes.
the reality is that money really was supposed to not be used to fill budget holes, but to really deal with coronavirus relief, which would have gone directly to businesses and things like that. It was not to fill budget holes, which is what the state is doing.
Well, it is a tough issue, and I think you know me well enough at this point. I'm my liberal heart comes through on everything, but at the same time, I will tell you, I have a little bit of frustration from my seat of people's inability to follow through and help themselves. Like I said, this EIDL loan, the chamber had to take it because we're not eligible for PPP. We're a 501c6, so we were one of the groups that was not eligible for PPP funding, at least not yet. Senator Rubio was hell-bent against it initially. I think there's been enough of a bipartisan push that we will, maybe if there is another round of funding, will be included, but you see how much fighting's going on over that. Goodness knows if and when. So I had to take an EIDL loan. My payment's $100 a month, and I got a $25,000 loan. And I don't have to make a payment for a year. Now, any business should be doing that. The only challenge you would run into is if you were trying to buy property or something else, those liens are going to show. Okay. But that's only if you go over 25,000. If you stay under 25,000, there's no collateral. So the only thing you'd have to reflect is the debt, which is $100 a month. I mean, if that's changing your balance sheet, you got more issues than COVID,
Lamar was on as well. So the CARES Act money that Broward got.
Yes.
There really the guidelines are so open, they could do anything.
Well, I've had conversation with Sandy because I actually sit on that small business advisory committee for Lamar for the county. And I'm friendly with Sandy anyway through the Alliance, but I, reached out to him because both Dade and Palm Beach have programs for the businesses. In Palm Beach, I think, or maybe it was Dade. If you did not get EIDL or PPP funding, then you're eligible for their grant program, So I really think the answer is probably more through the county. Pompano chose to use the HUD money they had for individuals. So they gave out rental assistance and it was gone in one day. That's the problem with city money.
They could go back. Well, if they haven't, I don't know how the HUD money, if that's a reimbursement, but they could go back. That was the other thing. People were not planning. They were just, if money came, they just grabbed it.
Right.
In one instance, one county wanted to use this money, CARES Act money, for housing for some of their difficult population, the people that are disproportionately. It's like, don't do that. You getting housing money.
I know.
The housing money for that. The last thing I'll tell you real quickly, you may want to go and see what Jacksonville did. I'm going to look for that.
Okay.
So you could go online and see.
Of course, Jacksonville's an anomaly still because the whole city is the county.
Right,
so the county is one. Yeah. This is always our challenge in Broward is our 31 cities,
right.
as you
look
well
at
know.
their ordinances, what they did.
Okay.
Jacksonville went overboard.
Okay.
Overboard. They gave the mayor, and they have a strong mayor. You don't have a
Right.
strong mayor. They gave the mayor $25 million like slush fund. It's crazy. I'm
Wow.
sure they're going to use it on a convention. I'm just saying. But what they did with businesses, if you incurred any losses, like any profit, not for profit, you could seek reimbursement out of their
Wow.
146 million that they got. So you may get some ideas.
Yes, I will take a
suggestions.
look at it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
They were very business friendly, just almost too business friendly.
Well, yeah, right. Well, that's been kind of the argument, you know, that I've heard on the backside of the Pompano discussions. You know, if we have to give somebody $1,000, what are we really doing? That $1,000 is not going to keep a business going. You know, that's not rent for a month for anybody. So what are you doing? You're just handing money out.
Right.
You know. So that's kind of how they felt, and they felt instead they want to focus their money on maybe doing things in certain districts, creating outside seating opportunities, because all that takes money too. So who's going to, you know.
PPE is a big deal too.
It is.
Because we found a lot of the small restaurants in, I call them neighborhood, you know,
Yes.
You know, I saw one guy was at the, you know, doing their little register thing, and he has his T-shirt over his face.
Well, I saw, somebody
PPE.
told me in McDonald's, same thing, a young lady just with her nothing, you know, like with a sock she'd cut or something that she was using as a mask.
So one of the counties proposed like a food pantry, but PPE pantry.
Yeah.
So that businesses could get it.
I like that. Yeah, that's actually a really cool idea.
Yeah. But it would take a chamber or something like that to kind of
push.
Monitor
well,
that.
Like I said, I don't have enough push. I'm not that big a chamber. I mean, I'm good size, but I'm like number 3 in the county. But at the same time, the Council of Chambers is meeting. And maybe, you know, maybe if you come across some of these things, maybe you want to come on one of our calls and
Sure,
throw some ideas out to the group.
I have, because we have a DC office, I have followed every dime. You know, the state has room for improvement too, but you really should go back and look at the Office of Economic Opportunity. They have another grant that they're calling the, I don't know, not-for-profits can partner with cities, and it's a disaster relief thing. So basically you can do hardening. They got $400 million sitting there.
I know what I did see something about that. Yeah.
It's due, and they're not going to run out of money, and they don't have enough applications. People don't know about it.
Or understand it. Yeah.
Don't understand it, but it's so simple. And I think you can get up to, I think it's up to $500,000, kind of like the cultural affairs grant that Pompano got for the center. You could get it like 3 times, and you can put it into an entity and put in more than one project.
Okay.
And then also the great thing about these funds, you can use them for federal matches. Like the CARES Act money that comes down from the county, you can use that as a federal match for something else. So it's just kind of deciding. I tell people, just have a project in the pocket and then just try to figure it out.
Go back into it. Yeah.
What's going to happen if you don't be aggressive? The county is going to lose that money if they don't spend it by December 30th. And if they set up all these programs, it's not going to work. Because to your point, people are apathetic. They're lazy. They're not going to apply. They're just going to.
I know. It makes me crazy, you know?
So you might as well have a project that's going to suck up the money. Because if not, one of the lobbyist types like me are going to come up with a project that they're going to take all the money. In Miami-Dade County, they got $470 million. Now they want to train to the casino. It costs $200 million. They spent $6 million on food, passing out. Food.
Well, food is tough. Food is tough, you know. And I've been very worried as we came into the summer. You know, I'm good friends with Charlotte too, who's working, you know, in the area for aging, and her meal distribution is like out of control. And now she's had money, but now she's getting concerned that she's going to run out of money.
She needs to get that money from the county.
Okay. I'll give her a call today. Yeah.
What's happening is, with all due respect to Bertha, she's holding some of that, and a lot, and Orange County and I think Hillsborough did the same thing. They're
Yeah.
holding some of that money for expenses in the future, like this second wave.
Yeah,
So, but if they don't say anything, it's not going to happen.
not
And
gonna
it's just not,
happen.
you know, communities that are disproportionately affected, this whole underlying health conditions issue,
Yeah,
they're not using any of that money for that. And that's kind of got started in working with doctors that serve those communities. So we'll
yes.
see. But the trick is not to give up and to read
No, I know, I know.
because the commissioners don't know.
No, they don't, they
idea.
don't.
They listen to whatever the bureaucrats tell them.
Right.
So you can
Right.
only use it for this. Lie. Read it yourself. Read it yourself. They're telling
Oh,
lies.
I love
But
it.
anyway, thank you for the opportunity.
Thank
can
you
call
so
me anytime.
Oh, I loved it.
Anytime.
You were as awesome as I knew you would be, and congratulations again on getting more awards and accolades.
You
They're
know,
so
the
well
worst-
deserved.
You know the worst thing about it feels like an obituary. It's like when people say, "Oh, I would give you flowers while you could see them." Like, oh God, as I
No,
have another birthday.
no, because you know what? It's just people really do appreciate all the effort you
Yeah.
put in. So
I love
thank
it.
you.
I love
Louis,
it.
thank you so much.
You're welcome.
Oh,
Yeah,
sorry,
okay,
Louis.
I hear you. Thank you.
Take care.
All right.
Okay,
Bye-bye.
bye.
Bye bye. Bye bye.